Hi, guys. Welcome to Liz and Liz Get Literary. My name is Liz.
And my name is Liz. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are here.
We are here and we are here for a fun, well, extra fun reason today.
Yes. Do you want to tell everybody about our special episode today?
Yes. So we have a treat. I had to write down the accolades, you guys, because there was some really exciting stuff. So let me tell you about our guest today. We are going to be joined by the incredibly talented Bram Stoker Award-winning author, Cynthia Pelayo. She is the author of several works of horror and dark fiction, including Children of Chicago and Crime Scene. And she is very well known for blending genres, steering you, and reimagining some stories that you may be familiar with. We are celebrating her latest release, It Came From Neverland, that will be hitting bookstores on June 9th. You may know from the title that this is going to be twisting something nostalgic, something you may be familiar with, into something very terrifying, and we can both confirm.
Yes, I did not feel well reading this. I was nervous. I made sure that all my lights were on and working, and I really had the best time. I do love when these fairy tales get kind of horror. I don't know if Peter Pan, like when you really truly think about it, was ever anything but horror, but I really enjoyed this book. How about you?
I think I saw some, you remember on TikTok, or like maybe it was like back when it was Vine or YouTube or whatever, they would make these like reverse trailers for popular Disney movies. Have you ever seen those? And it was like, what if Mary Poppins was a horror movie? What if Peter Pan was a horror movie? And I remember seeing one for Peter Pan years ago, and I was like, now that I think about it, this is terrifying. So the book definitely did put you in that mindset. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who likes to be thrilled. It's not too scary. If Liz S can read it, you all can read it. I do promise. It might be a little scary, but you will make it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, make sure your lights are on, make sure it's daytime, and you'll be great.
Something I really appreciated about this one as well is that we do also have like the war setting. We love a historical fiction, so it really did kind of feel like a blend of a folklore, a historical fiction, and a horror, and a little bit of true crime, kinda.
Yeah, because I mean, I think one of the things you don't think about is like the lost boys and where did they come from and where have they been? Is there something to go back to or is there anybody looking for them?
Right.
And this book does a really good job kind of exploring that. And that was probably one of my favorite aspects because I was like, and like where did Peter come from? And what is Peter's backstory? And I think really learning and kind of seeing this author bring that to life was probably one of my favorite parts.
It was really cool. So that is what we have in store for you today. We are going to be asking her about her writing process, how she comes up with blending all these genres, and what fairy tales get reimagined, and just how she balances it all. So we would love to welcome to the show Cynthia Pelayo.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Cynthia.
Hi, Liz.
Hi,
And I am
Liz.
the other Liz.
Hi, Liz. Nice to meet you.
So I just finished the book today, by the way. Obsessed.
Thank you.
So
I
good.
was so scared. I was like, I have to make sure the lights are on and like it's daytime. I'm a scaredy cat though. And so I feel like it was perfect. It was perfect because I was just the right amount of like, okay, what's about to happen? I don't know. I don't know if I want to know.
I loved it.
I thank you. I appreciate that. I have told people kind of I've been warning people like little by little, like it's probably one of my most intense books. So I'm sorry. Early on, it's kind of it's interesting because I wrote it when I was traveling a lot. And I submitted it to my editor. And in publishing, sometimes you get like an editor will change, and so the editor who acquired it She eventually wound up leaving. She went elsewhere. But I submitted it, and I just remember being like, I didn't I didn't like it. Like, I just remember I was on deadline, I was traveling a lot, and I just remember looking at it, and she was like, "Okay, here are the changes," and I looked at the changes that she recommended, and they were great changes, but I was just like, "I think she's being really nice. I think that I need to, like, overhaul this thing," and, I just kind of thought about I really wanted to write about Wendy, and I don't think people have really thought about, like, from her perspective, what that would have felt like, so I wanted to cover that, and it kinda got a little psychologically difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It absolutely did. Before we start, because I know we're about to start the whole conversation, I just want to say welcome to Liz and Liz Get Literary. And we are so excited to have you. And like we said, we loved the book. Um, what inspired you to want to start writing Wendy's story and to for the story to come out? Like what was your inspiration? What prompted you? Give us the details.
I've I've always loved Peter Pan, just, the whimsical promise of, "Come away with me, and we will live together and laugh together and be children forever and just be happy," and I was always, like, captivated by that as a child, and I'm sure that's probably in part why the story was so popular. Like, I loved the Robin Williams adaptation, that's I just always remember being, like, so captivated by that, seeing what Peter would be like as an adult in the real world, but over time, I think as I got older, I started realizing how dark it really was, the story, and I went back and I read the original Peter Pan, and there's actually a line in it that signals hints that Peter does bad things to children because there's a line, I don't have the exact quote, but something to the effect of, "When Peter gets tired of them, he thins them out." It's, like, in the original Peter and Wendy book, and I was like, "I knew it, this is it." Like, he was hinting to a series, and so I just really wanted to talk about Wendy and how this impacted her, and I imagined Neverland at that moment not being the promise that he made.
Totally. And how could it be? You know what I mean? Like when you really think about it after you do grow up, you're like, this feels like it would be a dangerous place.
Yeah, it's like, you know and even just thinking about it, like, even looking at the story, right? It's like, okay, um, Wendy goes off with him, and then what's the expectation for Wendy once she's there? To be a mother, to take care of all these boys, to knit and sew and repair, and it's just kind of like, that's you promised me something else, and then you have me here doing labor. So even if it's not from, like, that really, like, murderous perspective, it's still, like, a really manipulative, s
One of the things
Absolutely.
we said before you got on too was one of the things I had never thought of too is like where the Lost Boys came from as well. Like where their stories were, I mean, did they have anybody looking for them or waiting for them? Like that whole concept is kind of talked about and I felt it was very fascinating because it never even crossed my mind that they had backstories as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one aspect of it that I found interesting when I went back and read the original, and they all have, like, nicknames, all the boys, and they vary in ages. There's, like, the twins, but we don't know anything about them, and there was one adaptation that I really, really love. If you haven't read it, it's by Christina Henry, it's called Lost Boy, and she talks about that a lot extensively, like, where do these children come from that he brings to the island? And so I thought of it as a much darker thing that he's going to take children. He goes to take, he leaves, he takes children and he brings them back and he just uses them as playthings. And even in the novel, the original, it's a dangerous place, Neverland. There are all like these creatures and these treacherous forests. So,
Yeah, and I think so. I would like to piggyback off of that. So you mentioned like reading the original book and you mentioned that Lost Boy book. How did you go about studying this lore and deciding that you wanted to tell that story of Peter? Did he just seem like that off to you that you wanted to portray him that way, or was it something different?
I knew there was going to be something that I wanted to shine a light on. There's something strange about Neverland. Like, this is weird. This makes no sense. And so I went and I read Peter Pan actually appears for the very first time in another book by J.M. Barrie called The Little White Bird. And in that book, it's like a series of like little stories. In that book, it talks about when Peter's a baby and leaves through the window and he meets a crow. I'm like, okay, this is already creepy. And it meets a crow named Solomon Crow. And it's there where Solomon Crow essentially tells him something to the effect of, you will become, it says, you will become betwixt and between. And so it's like almost the way I interpreted that is like, okay, you're going to become something that's neither human or neither bird. And you are going to go off to this other land. And then I read the play. And then I read the Peter and Wendy story. And then I read a lot about J.M. Barrie. He was a very eccentric character. And I won't go into his character, but there's been, a lot of questions about him as an individual. In terms of like the recent adaptations, I tried to read as many recent adaptations. I read Lost Boy by Christina Henry, Wendy Darling by A.C. Wise, a few others. The one that really stuck with me was Christina Henry's. Um, and I think after reading all of that, I started just thinking of Pennywise from Stephen King's It. I don't know, I couldn't get it out of my head. And I was like, why do I keep thinking of Pennywise? And so I just started like journaling. Okay, what does Pennywise do? How does he manipulate these children? They thought that they defeated him and he's still there. And I was like, oh my gosh, is like Peter Pan kind of like a Pennywise? And so that's sort of where that started being woven in.
That's so cool. That's awesome. I loved we were telling our friends, we were like, "It's Peter Pan meets It," and they're like, "I'm terrified. I have to read it." That's awesome.
Yes. And I definitely picked that up while reading as well, entity of it all and all of that. And you did a good job bringing all of that lore in. I have to, like I said, I was terrified, and it also terrifies me. So it was great.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Don't say sorry because I loved it.
Yeah.
I also like I love when fairy tales are twisted, and I think a lot of the original fairy tales are very twisted. The one that comes to mind the most for me is The Little Mermaid. Like the ending of that was very twisted. So reading it and having it brought to life in a book is one of my favorite things ever. What is your writing process like? Do you outline or do you just kind of let your words flow? Are you organized? How do you write?
It's an organized disorder, I think is the best way to say it. I have a series of processes. So I have like my research process. I try to think of the steps differently. Like research is one brain, pre-writing and outlining is another brain. Writing is another brain, and then editing is a different brain. So I almost have to like schedule each of those different activities. Otherwise, they just sort of I teach writing also, and so I'll tell my writing students, like, if you're gonna sit down to write, you should just be writing because otherwise it's like all the trains are gonna be, crammed on the track. So focus on whatever activity you have planned out for that day. So I usually start out with like an idea. Like I knew I wanted to do Peter Pan, and like I bounced ideas back and forth with my editor. And in terms of like the time period, it was my editor who recommended it. And she was like, what do you think about making it a continuation? And I thought that was like too daunting because I haven't written anything that takes place outside of Chicago. And so I was just like really intimidated to write about London in 1914 and World War I. And she's like, I think you could do it. I was like, I can. And she's like, I think you can. So I spent a lot of time researching London, World War I, what was happening, like how everybody's world was changing at that time period. Like men were going off to war. Women, especially working class women, they were left alone with many children and they had to like create a system of who's going to take care of who, or children were going off to orphanages. So it was a lot of research. So I do a lot of research. And then from there, I just kind of start doing a lot of pre-writing. I love writing by hand. So I take a lot of notes. I journal. I journal as the characters. So I will do like quite a period of time where I do a lot of pre-writing and seeing how things will start connecting. And then I do outline, but when I'm writing, if something naturally feels like it needs to go in one direction against the outline, I'm going to follow what that leads to. So I do outline, and once I'm ready, then I just start writing. And typically my writing schedule, it varies. I write on deadline a lot now, and so I have to just kind of meet keep up with that, but that's sort of my process. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And,
Yeah.
I think you journaling as the characters as well, that's so fascinating to me. And your book did also feel almost historical fiction too, because I didn't know about the children having to go to the homes and stuff during the First War. And then, after I was reading it, I was like, well, yeah, that makes so much sense. And I love historical fiction. So it was just, I was right there. I was sat. And then it was like, also, like, here's this crow and here's it was a great time.
And then, like, I learned how, like, a lot of, like, working class boys or, like, kids from, like, rural communities and farms, they would, like, lie about their ages to go to war because it paid better. And so you had, like, really young people, like, maybe, like, 15, 16-year-olds in some cases that were, like, going off to war, but they were lying about their age. So that was really
That is wild too, yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, how would anybody know?
Mhm. That is so interesting too about like, yes, you pre-write and yes, you outline, but when the story takes you, you just follow it. Like, I think that's awesome. And you can tell that you are like really inspired by writing. And I think that that's like, you can tell it really flows. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I do want to circle back to Wendy. We mentioned her earlier, she was promised something or she was taken somewhere and thought it was going to be one thing, right? And it turns into another. And then your reiteration of this, it seems obviously she's extra haunted by Peter. How did you build on their relationship?
it's interesting because, like, when I sat back and I looked at the first draft, I realized that I had written it and I had, like, no real interiority. And I think it's because I do something where I'm scared to put my characters in really scary situations. And, I remember my editor was like, "It's great, but, like, there's literally no interiority in the book, like, what happened?" And I was like, "Oh, that's me being scared for her." And so I had to sit with, "Okay, why am I scared to go into her head? Like, what's going on there?" And I was like, "Well, I guess it's she loved Peter. She has this conflict where she loves someone that was really cruel to her. And so there's also like a sense of guilt. It's like, oh my gosh, how could I be duped by this awful person? And not only that, but like I saw him do these awful things to children, to other children that were supposed to be in my care. And so like I think she's had like a layered guilt, like shame as well, like shame, guilt. And it's hard to write about, like, shame, like, how do you have to get into, like, a really uncomfortable place, and so that's probably, like, my subconscious was like, "I don't wanna go there." And so it almost it's funny, I saw someone say on like, someone had tagged me, and they said something like, "Cynthia Pelayo captured, in essence, what feels like a domestic abusive
Mm,
relationship would feel like." And, thank goodness I've never been in a situation like that. But that's sort of as I started thinking about it more and more, that's sort of what it felt like it should have been. Like this manipulative, really cruel relationship where it's like he love bombs her and then goes away and does something cruel to a child, and then eventually the cruelty is enacted on her.
Yes. Yeah. I actually 100% agree with that. And you did a very masterful job portraying that as well. I could feel his manipulation even in the beginning with little things that he would do. I was like, "Oh, he's not great." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that also to make it authentic, like, once I felt like, "Okay, it's going in this direction," I didn't wanna pull things from the air. So I just started looking a lot at what are the characteristics of an individual that would do something like that? Like, psychologically, how would they act? YouTube is like a wonderful place. You can find all sorts of things. I looked at a lot of like psychological profiles, what this would fit. And so I started building, and that's how I started building the characters. When I would do pre-writing, I would write as Peter. How would Peter in the situation manipulate Wendy? What is he thinking? What does he want? And the entire time, Wendy's just trying to like please him and doesn't want to doesn't want to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and she tries her hardest to move on, and I think it was interesting too because you talk about her brothers, and they do kind of try and move on with their lives as well, and it really felt that Peter kept Wendy stuck even when he wasn't all the way there. She was still stuck. And we won't give away big spoilers or anything, but the way that you end it for Wendy and Peter was so masterful. And like I teared up for Wendy because I was so happy for her. I connected very well with Wendy and feeling Peter's presence and all of that. Do you think Peter Pan was kind of your one retelling you wanted to write about, or do you think you'll do others?
I've done others, but I feel like this book is when it finally clicked a little better for me versus like things I've done in the past. But yes, I certainly feel like this is a place where I want to spend a lot of time with retellings.
If I could offer anything, if you wanted to do The Little Mermaid, I would eat I know that you would write something that I will read probably every day for the rest of my life. So, if you ever wanted to, even if it's just for fun, I knew you'd kill it. I would literally gosh, I
Thank,
couldn't even imagine.
thank you.
Are there any that you have thoughts of that you would be willing to share?
I am I'll just say generally I'm looking at a lot of classics right now. So I'm just looking at the classics. Um and how I can do something interesting with those.
Okay, perfect. That was a nice little tidbit. There's a lot of classics I could see. Some unfortunately great retellings, very scary. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that. And as far as this book goes, are there any specific themes that you're hoping that readers take away?
The number one, I think, the how she saves herself and how is trauma is such a awful shadow that like so many of us carry, and how trauma in childhood does follow you into adulthood. It follows you throughout your life. And so, what can be done in order to defeat those monsters so that you can reclaim your present? And that's what I want people to walk away from, that you are not the bad thing that happened to you. You have agency to live right now and not let that bad thing impact today.
I love that. And that's evident. It does, like Liz was saying earlier, it kind of can read historical fiction. It can read regular fiction. It was also very scary, but you can kind of feel that healing journey and like a recovery journey going on too while you're reading it. And I think that was really important. And it was really apparent as well as a reader.
Are there specific tropes that you really love to write about, or are there tropes that you haven't written that you would like to read or write eventually?
Like, I write a lot about like the person that's not believed. I feel like that's been, you see that, especially women that are not believed, women's stories who are not believed. I feel like that's where I've been in, and I've really been exploring on how women are dismissed. So much of what we say, we're like, well, yeah, I told you that was going to happen. It's just not that we're dismissed, or we're told that we are overreacting, or we're called emotional, or I'm like, do you know, like the internal, like intuition system that women have? Like, it's freaking magical. Like, we feel things in our body that will alert us to like people and situations. And so I think women need to be believed more when we say, I feel like there's something odd here. I don't feel safe with this person. I don't feel safe in this place. And so that's sort of where I've been. Anywhere that I would like to go in terms of tropes, I don't know yet. We'll see. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
That's a good answer. You got to see where the wind takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So, and I know it's not out yet. It's coming out. We told everyone June 9th, correct?
Yes. Yes. June
So,
9th.
yes. So, how are you feeling with that being so soon?
I feel good. I'm trying not to think about it because it's a really busy few days right before it because I will be at StokerCon, which is the Horror Writers
Yeah.
Association's
Yeah.
annual conference, and I'm nominated for an essay, so I'll be there for that. Then this comes out, and it got a starred review in Booklist, and then a starred review in Library Journal, and it was named like in Men's Health, and I was like, whoa! So it's been exciting. It's been exciting that people have like. It's hard when you write characters that people are just so familiar with, and I wanted to stay true to what we remembered, like, I didn't wanna flip them too much. I kinda wanted to edge on and be like, "Could this have been what's going on?" Um, and so it was a lot of pressure, and so I'm happy that people, um, are receiving it,
Did
for
it
what it is.
take you a long time to write it? What was the turn like, were you writing it for a couple years, like, sitting on it, or was it a pretty quick, like, "Here it is, I'm gonna get it out," and then get
I had about a year to write it, but that first draft, I wasn't happy with it, and it was me. I was just like, I didn't give it my all. It was so flat. And so when I went back and I did a full rewrite of the novel, and that was a really quick turnaround, but I had like the bones of kind of what I wanted to do. So about within a year, I had.
I just love hearing the whole process because it's so fascinating to kind of see behind the scenes. Sometimes you have authors who have like, "No, I've had this story in my head for years and it just had never come out." And then sometimes you're like, "No, literally it popped up in my head one day and I had it written and gone within a couple of months." And I think it's so fascinating how every writer is just so different. And like just like every reader is so different. It's the best community.
I think, creativity keeps us together. Creativity saves us. I think, if there's something that you're really excited about, do it. I tell people all the time, be weird. Be as weird as you want to be. I feel like sometimes like pulling back isn't the answer. Just go all in and create something that makes you happy.
Absolutely agree.
Totally.
So, is there any authors we've kind of touched on a couple of different things that have influenced your story. Are there any like other specific authors that influence your work or that you're like your favorite authors? Are you currently reading anybody that you're obsessed with? Like, is there anything that you want to talk about in that sense?
Right now, I'm like authors that are inspiring me or that are doing like cool things, or I'm looking a lot at the fairy tale realm where people have adapted fairy tales, like Carmen Maria Machado, Kelly Link, especially. I've also looked at like, Isabel Cañas, who is like a queen in like gothic horror. And so moody, I'm looking for like a lush and moody and taking a fairy tale and doing something really interesting with it.
Yes, we read The Possession of Alba Diaz earlier this year, or maybe it was like late last year. And it was another story that had me absolutely terrified in the best way. So I completely understand what you're saying in those senses. Absolutely.
Amazing. I, for one, would be very interested to read the essay that you're nominated for. Is that published somewhere?
Yes, it is. It's here, I have the book.
Okay.
So it's in Why I Love Horror.
I saw that. I saw this.
There go the Chicago noises, the sirens. I should have warned you. Essays on horror literature, and so it's edited by Becky Spratford. The whole anthology is actually nominated as well for a Bram Stoker Award and nonfiction, and then my essay is nominated for a short nonfiction. So if you
That's
want to know
amazing.
your favorite horror author, why they love horror, they will tell you their origin story in this.
That's actually so cool. I have seen this on Goodreads. A few of our friends have marked it and that they want to read it. So, and I was intrigued. So, I will definitely have to keep an eye out for that. So, we know you have that coming up. Are you going on any type of like a book tour, or do you have anything else coming up that you want to tell our audience about, or where they can find you online?
Too, and I don't know why I couldn't feel the reach. So in terms of book tour, like I'm trying to stay local as much as possible because I did like a tour back to back they're tough. It's like really tough, going from city to city. So I'm like really just trying to like be within like the Chicagoland area. So I will be around the Chicagoland area as much as possible. If that changes, you can find any updates on my website, cynthiapelayo.com. I'm on Instagram, Cynthia Pelayo author. And now another thing I have coming up, I have this. So speaking of Isabel Kanyas, she's in this. So I edited this anthology. It's called Something Followed Us Home. It will be out September 29th, and it is a collection of some of like the best authors working in Latin American fiction. So it includes Agustina Bastarrica, Isabel Cañas, Mariana Enriquez, and so many other authors. Xochitl Gonzalez, Leopoldo Gall.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So, so if you like Latin American horror stories,
I do.
and so this will be available September 29th, and it's being published in both English and Spanish simultaneously, and it will be released internationally. So throughout in the United States and throughout Latin America as well.
That's amazing.
I do have
Wow.
another question for you.
Yeah.
As someone who does not do well with horror, do you have to do anything to get in the mood to write horror? Like, I know I might be able to like read this in the book, but in particular, like, is there something you do to get in the mood, or is it just something that's so natural?
So that's a really good question. And so like the way I think about horror is like it's like Grady Hendrix was like he had said during a talk that he thinks of horror as a category, and there's like all these different like subgenres within it. So you go anything from quiet to like really like extreme. I'm kind of more over here in the quiet atmospheric, but there will be beats in my text that might come up a little bit. I like to write really late at night, and it's funny. I've only met like one other author. She's not even a horror author. She writes essays. So if I'm going to write something that feels very atmospheric or moody or scary, I have to write it between like, I don't know why, midnight and 3 a.m. It's like, I know everybody's asleep. There's this like eerie stillness about that time. And then I gotta like hurry up and get in bed like afterwards because I've completely scared myself. And so during the day, that's kind of when I do like the cleanup or technical stuff and making sure things make sense. But at night, that's when I feel like I can really write something because if I'm up late and scared, I can make things sound scary on the page.
Yeah, you definitely can. I I'm like that type of person where like if I wake up in the hour like the 3 a.m. hour, I'm like, go back to sleep. You cannot be awake right now. Like this is not good. So I'm very like superstitious in that way. So I completely get that. Like and it comes across. Like I said, I had to have the lights on and I had to make sure it was daytime. So I horror is a newer genre for me because I'm a scaredy cat. We've read like Marcus Cleaver, Grady Hendrix, and one of the things that even Peter kind of in the beginning of this is there's no physical entity that you're scared of. Like you just know you're scared of something. And that almost makes it worse because you're like, what exactly? Because I'm like, what will Peter be when we finally get to meet him? And that anticipation that just had my heart going. I'm like, what is going to appear? What is going like is he going to be the soft child? Is he going to be this demon entity? And you do a really good job of building that suspicion and kind of trying to like make us anticipate it because I was like, please tell me soon. I got to know.
Yeah. And I think probably the scariest thing is like what he appears at the end. It's like, yeah. And, a lot of people, I don't what can be the scariest thing to some people? Another person, perhaps. It's so, yeah, I think atmosphere, not saying what the thing is, the unsaid sometimes is what's really scary.
Yes, we had Marcus Cleaver on the show to talk about We Used to Live Here, and he refused to answer any questions because he wanted it to be as scary as possible. And if he told us his thought process or he told us the inspiration or even like what type of mythology he was using, it would ruin the magic. So
Interesting.
we answered our questions, but not like answered the questions. And I think we tell everyone that. Like, if you figure it out, like when you're told Santa's not real, you're like, cool. Like, it kind of ruins
Yeah.
it for you. So that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah. sometimes it's very cool.
Is there anything else you wanna talk about in terms of It Came From Neverland? Is there anything specific you wanna make sure that we discuss?
Anything else? Definitely, go back and
Definitely,
look at your favorite Peter Pan story, and if I've ruined Peter for you forever, I'm very sorry. You can always go back and look at, your favorite story. I've had a few people say you ruined Peter Pan for me forever. I'm so very sorry. Go back and look at the Disney versions. This is just one version. So
I mean, if you really think about it, did we kind of need this a wake up call about Peter? Yes, because even the Disney version, when you really think about it, it is kind of still a horror story. So,
scary. And so,
yeah.
I think, I think Wendy's a hero. I really wanted to center Wendy's story and say, she survived something really intense. And so I think good for her.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. So, again, people can find you on Instagram, your website. We'll link all of that in our information. And thank you so much again for coming and talking to us.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
it has been a treat. Everyone, June 9th, you must read It Came From Neverland if you like horror or retellings, fantasy retellings, spooky retellings. It has it all. There is something for truly every type of fan in this book. It was really good.
Thank you.